To start, let's discuss player numbering. Beginning this season, a player can be numbered 0 through 99 inclusive. So a player can have the single digit 0 on his jersey. However, the player cannot wear a double 0 or any number preceded by a 0, such as 01, 02, or 03. However, the single digit 0 is legal. Also, a player wearing 0 is an eligible receiver. The next topic involves the definition of a chop block. Federation made a slight change to the definition of a chop block. It's still a high-low combination block, but last year the low portion of the block had to be at the knee or below. This year, the definition states that the low portion of the block just has to be below the waist. Now, this shouldn't be very different and shouldn't present any problems with officiating because this is generally how we've officiated the safety foul in the past. Just remember that the high portion is above the waist and the low portion has to be below the waist. Let's now talk about clocks and game timing. The first timing rule we'll talk about is Rule 347. A few years ago, Federation put this rule in, which basically said that if a foul occurs in the last 2 minutes of a half, the offended team has the option of choosing to start the game clock on the snap. But to get this option, it had to accept the penalty for its opponent's foul. Now, this was good in some situations, but not in others. For example, if the defense was behind and the offense fouled, the defense would choose to start the clock on the snap, but by accepting the penalty, it gave the offense a chance to replay the down and take some more time off the clock anyway. So this didn't give the defense the true benefit of what it wanted. Federation this year amended 347 to take that requirement out. Now, if a team fouls with less than 2 minutes in either half, the offended team may choose to start the game clock on the snap, even if it declines the penalty. What is important is that the foul occurred, not the choice of the penalty. So this year, the defense does not have to accept the penalty to have the game clock start on the snap. Just a reminder, referees especially, don't forget about Rule 346. While Rule 347 is mandatory when a foul occurs in the last 2 minutes of either half, 346 applies throughout the game. And as we've stated in the football officiating manual, referees should consider thinking about Rule 346 within the last 5 minutes of a half. The next new timing rule involves the setting of the play clock. Normally, after an administrative stop, the play clock will be set to 25 seconds, and it will start when the referee marks the ball ready for play. Last year, Federation added an exception to that rule when the clock is stopped due to a defensive player being injured or a defensive player's helmet coming off. In those circumstances, the play clock is set to 40 seconds, and it will start when the referee marks it ready for play. This year, Federation expanded that exception to include defensive fouls. Now, under the rule, when the clock is stopped due to Rule 357I, which is the provision for stopping the clock to enforce a foul, and Team B is the only team to foul, the play clock will be set to 40 seconds. The purpose of the rule is to prevent the defense from fouling and thereby taking away the offense's opportunity to run more time off the game clock that it would have done with the normal 40-second clock, but for the foul. The key word here is when the clock is stopped due to Rule 357I for a foul-only Team B. If you think about it, there could be several reasons the clock could be stopped. It may stop because a pass is incomplete. It may stop because a runner goes out of bounds. In those situations, this rule doesn't apply. But this rule does apply when the only reason for the clock being stopped is Team B's foul. The way to think about this is, what will the clock next do? If the game clock will next start on the snap, set the play clock to 25 seconds. But if the game clock will next start on the ready, set the play clock to 40 seconds. In both situations, the play clock will start when the referee marks the ball ready for play. To help everyone remember these changes, they've been added to Part 4 of the officiating manual.